There comes a day in every man's life when he has to answer the hard question. Am I building something real or am I just dreaming? And let me tell you, if you don't ask that question in your 20s, life will force it on you in your 30s. If you don't ask it then, your 40s will feel like a blur of missed chances. And by the time your 50s come, if you're still drifting, you won't need to ask it anymore. You'll already know the answer. You'll feel it. Because here's the truth. You either wake up like a builder or you die with your dreams still inside you. I've met too many people who confuse having ambition with having a plan. And friend, there's a difference. The dreamer talks. The builder rises. The dreamer hopes. The builder prepares. The dreamer reacts to the day, the builder designs it. And you can spot them every morning. Just look at how they start the first hour. That first hour tells the truth about a man's philosophy. If he sleeps through it, avoids it, wastes it, he's voting against his own future, not with malice, but with neglect. And neglect, repeated, becomes regret. Now, some people hear that and feel attacked. They say, Jim, it's just a slow start. I'm tired. I'll get to it later. And I say, that's the problem. Later has become your default setting. You've built a rhythm around delay. But wealth, discipline, transformation, they don't come later. They come when you decide that the morning is sacred ground, that it's yours, and you won't hand it to the world, the news, or someone else's agenda. The millionaire doesn't just have more money, he has more clarity. And clarity comes from how you start your day. You see, time doesn't care about your feelings. The clock doesn't pause for your potential. It ticks. And if you treat every morning like it's optional, don't be surprised when life treats your success the same way. You can't casually stumble into greatness. It requires rhythm. And rhythm begins with the decision to show up at the beginning of the day with seriousness, not softness. I say this because I've lived both. I've been the man who drifted, and I've been the man who built. And I can tell you nothing changes until you change how you rise. If you begin reactive, scattered, and behind, you carry that tone into every room. But if you begin centered, deliberate, and clear, the world starts reacting to you. That's the difference. That's what the wealthy have mastered. They own their mornings. And because of that, they own their direction. So I want to make this personal. Don't just listen to this as another message. Let it be a mirror. If I followed you for 7 mornings, would I see the builder or the dreamer? Would I see structure or excuses? Would I see intention or drift? You already know, and that's why you're here. Because something in you is tired of the gap between who you wish you were and how you actually live. That's a painful place to sit, but it's also powerful. Because if you're willing to see it, you can reclaim it. You can rise tomorrow like the man you were always meant to be. But first, we need to go back. We need to see how far you've drifted from your identity and how to return. Let's start by naming the quiet death of the dreamer. Let's expose how ambition without morning discipline becomes nothing more than emotional exhaustion. Let's rebuild from the foundation up, 1 hour at a time, one identity decision at a time. Let's go there. Let's talk about who you used to be, or maybe more accurately, who you thought you were going to become. When you were young, you had this fire. You believed in something bigger. You pictured yourself successful, respected, disciplined. You didn't say it out loud, but deep down you thought, I'm going to be the one who makes it. Not just rich in money, but rich in purpose, rich in self-respect, rich in time. But then life got noisy. Responsibilities piled up. Doubt crept in. And slowly, quietly, you drifted from that man. You didn't fall overnight. Nobody does. You just started skipping the little things, one compromise at a time. You stopped waking up early because you needed rest. You stopped writing your goals because you already know them. You stopped moving your body because you'll get to it later. You stopped guarding your attention because there's so much going on. And before long, your mornings became a blur of reaction, of avoidance, of noise. And so did your identity. The problem with drift is that it feels like rest, but it leads to decay. It looks like ease, but it delivers erosion. It feels justified, but it leaves you restless. And I've seen it happen to too many good people. People who had talent, people who had dreams, but they lost the one thing they couldn't afford to lose: discipline in the unseen hours. Because when the foundation is weak, it doesn't matter how impressive the vision is. Sooner or later, it collapses. Now you might say, Jim, I still believe in my dream, and that's good. But belief isn't enough. Hope isn't a strategy. Vision, without daily behavior, is just emotional entertainment. You feel inspired, but nothing changes. And that's where most men live, caught between who they wish they were and what they're actually doing. And it's exhausting. Every night they promise themselves, tomorrow I'll be better. And every morning they start behind again. You see, a man can only lie to himself for so long before he either numbs out or steps up. And you don't need another year of guilt. You need alignment. Because the real pain isn't that you're behind. The real pain is that you know better. You know you're not living like the man you admire. And you know your routines aren't matching your values. That's what stings. But here's the good news: drift is not your destiny. It's just the result of unexamined habits. And habits can be rebuilt. Identity can be restored. The man you used to believe in, he's not gone. He's buried under inconsistency. And the way you dig him out is by reclaiming the morning. That's where you find him. Not in motivation, but in the mirror at 6:00 a.m. when you decide to show up before the world does. So let's name the patterns. Let's get honest about the behaviors that keep you average. The little choices that make a big difference. Because until you name the drift, you can't reverse it. And until you reverse it, you'll stay stuck in that loop of dreaming big and doing small. Let's move into the next section. Let's expose the habits that quietly keep men broke, behind, and disappointed in themselves. Not to shame you, but to free you. Because once you see it, you can replace it. Let's go there. You want to know why most men never become what they're capable of? It's not because they lacked vision. It's because they practiced drift, disguised as routine. They called it taking it slow. They said, I'll get serious when things calm down. But things never calm down. Because life doesn't give you calm, it gives you responsibility. And without rhythm, responsibility becomes a burden. That's how potential gets buried. Let me name these drift behaviors plainly. Not to condemn you, but to wake you up. Because if we don't name the pattern, we can't break it. And friend, these behaviors are not accidents. They're choices. Choices repeated so often that they became normal. But normal doesn't mean right. And normal doesn't lead to wealth. Here's the first one: snoozing your alarm. You think it's harmless, but it's the first decision of the day and you voted for delay. You told your body and your mind, my word doesn't matter. And when you start the day in delay, you carry that energy into every decision afterward. Snooze once, and the day snoozes with you. It's not just a button, it's a statement. Next, picking up your phone before picking up your vision. The average man wakes up and floods his brain with noises crawling through messages, news, and updates from people who don't even know his name. And before he's even vertical, he's already reacting. The dreamer starts with distraction. The builder starts with direction. Here's another: no written plan. You're walking into the most complex, fast-moving world in history without a compass. You wouldn't fly a plane with no destination. But every day, men get up and drift through 16 hours with no target. And then they wonder why nothing compounding happens. The wealthy, they write it down. They decide what matters before the world can decide for them. Fourth, skipping motion. You want to think clearly? You want to be present? Then move. Your body is not a burden, it's the ignition switch. 10 minutes of movement in the morning sends a signal. I'm ready. When you skip that, you carry heaviness into the day. You lose energy before the real challenges even start. Last, letting urgency replace clarity. You open your inbox. You check your messages. You start reacting to the world before you've reminded yourself who you are. That's how you lose your identity by 8 a.m. You didn't mean to, but you let the world write your morning story instead of you writing it yourself. These are the behaviors of drift. And here's the lie they whisper. It's just one morning. But it's never just one. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. The man who delays his discipline in the dark is the man who collapses under pressure in the light. Not because he's weak, but because he's unpracticed. You don't need more time. You don't need better circumstances. You need better behavior repeated in quiet hours. Because the secret to wealth is rhythm. And rhythm starts at dawn, not with complexity, but with consistency. So now that we've exposed the drift, let me show you the way out. Let me tell you a story, a real one, about how a man can reclaim everything he thought he lost. Not in a year, but in 1 hour a day. The hour nobody else sees. The hour that builds a life no one can take from you. Let's move forward. Let me show you how 1 hour made the man. I remember meeting a man sharp, full of potential, full of fire, but at the time he was broke. Not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. He had every reason to win in life. Smart, charismatic, even passionate. But he was stuck. You know what he told me? Jim, I feel like I'm waiting for something to change. I told him, nothing changes until you change your rhythm. So I gave him one assignment. Just one. Win the first hour. Not the day, not the month, not the whole year, just the first hour of tomorrow. I said, tomorrow morning, don't touch your phone. Don't let the world speak to you before you speak to yourself. Don't begin in confusion. Begin in command. I told him, get up on the first alarm. Sit in silence for 10 minutes. Move your body for 15. Read something wise. Then write down 3 priorities that you choose not ones handed to you by everyone else's crisis. He didn't argue. He was tired of drifting, so he did it. Day 1, he said, it felt strange, quiet, a little uncomfortable, but he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time direction. Day 2, he noticed his energy lasted longer. Day 3, he didn't need caffeine to feel awake. Day 5, he started turning down distractions because his mind had already tasted clarity. And by the end of 30 days, the man who used to wake up in guilt woke up in rhythm. Here's what he told me after a month. Jim, I finally believe myself again. Not because he won the lottery, not because his environment changed, but because he changed. And it all started with 1 hour. Now, I didn't give him a miracle. I gave him a principle. I taught him what I'm teaching you. Wealth doesn't begin in your bank account. It begins in your behavior. And that first hour of the day, it's not just a time slot. It's a vote. A vote for the man you're becoming or the one you're trying to leave behind. The man who drifts wakes up hoping something will happen. The man who builds wakes up already moving in the direction of his future. And that's what this man became. Not overnight, but hour by hour. Quietly, privately, before anyone else noticed. Until eventually, everyone noticed. His decisions were sharper, his posture more confident, his tone more certain. He didn't become someone new. He just uncovered the man who was buried under delay and distraction. That same path is available to you. 1 hour, each morning, practiced, protected, repeated. Because what builds the millionaire is not magic. It's not even talent. It's alignment. The future belongs to the man who builds his mornings like they matter because he knows they do. So now let's get to the work. Let's rebuild your self-image. Let's walk you back to the man you've always known you could be, but stop behaving like. Let's rewrite your identity. Let's start acting like the man you admire before he dies, buried in good intentions. We do that next. You've admired him for years, that future version of yourself. The one who walks with purpose. The one who speaks clearly, listens deeply, commands respect without needing to raise his voice. The one who earns without chasing, builds without rushing, gives without depletion. You've pictured him. You've even tried to reach him. But what you haven't done consistently is wake up like him. You see, identity is not something you discover. It's something you rehearse. Every morning, with every decision, you're either rehearsing the man you used to be or the man you're becoming. That's the hard truth. And until your mornings reflect the discipline of the man you admire, you'll keep carrying the shame of falling short. Now, I want to reframe this for you. Waking up like a millionaire is not about money. It's about standard. The millionaire standard says, I don't begin the day by accident. I don't wait for motivation. I honor my rhythm. I don't borrow clarity. I generate it. That's not ego. That's alignment. That's what it means to live by a personal philosophy rather than by pressure. So I have a question for you. What does the millionaire version of you do at 6:00 a.m.? Does he sleep in? Does he grab his phone and get flooded with noise before he's even vertical? Does he start the day chasing? Or does he rise? Does he begin with silence, motion, reflection, and intention? Does he act, not react? You already know the answer. If you want to meet that man in 5 years, you have to start behaving like him tomorrow morning. Not perfectly, not in grand gestures, but in consistent rhythms. One aligned action repeated daily is more powerful than 1,000 wishful thoughts shouted into the void. So how do you wake up like the man you admire? You don't wait to feel like him. You act like him until you feel like him. You don't let your past vote on your future. You let your discipline vote. You don't wait for the world to validate your potential. You wake up before the world and validate yourself. It's time to stop saying, one day. It's time to stop hoping confidence will show up like a package at your door. Confidence is the residue of self-respect. And self-respect is earned in silence when no one's watching, when the world is still asleep, when it's just you, your alarm clock, and the man in the mirror. And here's what I know. Once you've felt that alignment, you'll never settle for drift again. You'll start to crave the structure. You'll start to feel the difference. The scattered energy will fade. The guilt will fade. And what rises in its place is clarity, strength, and ownership. So let's move now from vision to structure. Let's walk in to the exact steps, the Millionaire Morning Code, that will take this new self-image and lock it in. Not through hype, not through a checklist, but through daily integrity. This is where the real change begins. Let's get to work. Now let's build it. The code, the rhythm, the system that takes the man you admire and brings him into the real world through your actions, not just your intentions. You don't need more inspiration. You need rituals. You need something solid enough to repeat and powerful enough to transform. That's what the wealthy have. Not luck, not miracles, structure. Here are the 5 disciplines I've seen used by the most effective, respected, and fulfilled men I've ever known. And I'll say this up front, none of them are complex, but none of them are casual either. They're simple, but sacred. They're quiet, but powerful. They are the Millionaire Morning Code. 1, rise without negotiation. The first win of the day is how you respond to your alarm. The average man hears it and starts bargaining. 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, 1 more snooze. But the millionaire, he doesn't argue with the clock, he answers it. Getting up on the first decision isn't about willpower. It's about integrity. It's saying, my word to myself matters more than my comfort. Every time you rise without hesitation, you gain momentum. Every time you snooze, you steal it. Discipline begins with the first decision. Protect it. 2, claim the hour. This hour belongs to you, not to your phone, not to the news, not to someone else's crisis. It belongs to your future. Spend this first hour in silence, not the kind of silence that makes you anxious, but the kind that makes you aware. Sit, breathe, think, write, read something noble, pray or reflect if that's your rhythm, but do it without noise. Because the world is loudened. If you don't hear your own voice first, you'll forget what it sounds like. Silence is not emptiness, it's preparation. 3, rehearse your goals aloud. The rich don't let their vision grow cold. Every morning they reheat it. Speak it out loud. Not with hype, but with conviction. This is who I am. This is what I'm building. This is what I value. This is where I'm going. You don't repeat goals because you're weak. You repeat them because the world is full of distraction. If you don't remind yourself what matters, you'll spend your day responding to what doesn't. What you rehearse, you remember. What you remember, you move toward. 4, move the body. This doesn't have to be a 60-minute gym session, but you must move, walk, stretch, do body weight reps, get the blood flowing. Because when the body moves, the mind clears. When the body is still for too long, confusion settles in. You want better thinking? Move. You want stronger decision-making? Move. You want to feel like the man you admire? Move like him. Physical motion unlocks mental clarity. 5, write down 3 non-negotiables. Before the world has a chance to set your agenda, you set your own. Write down 3 things, only 3, that matter most today. Not the most urgent, the most important. Wealthy men live by prioritization, not reaction. 3 priorities, locked in early, become your compass for the day. Without them, the day becomes noise. If you don't decide what matters, something else will. These 5 disciplines are not hacks. They're identity anchors. They bring the future into the present. They remind you daily of who you are and what you've decided to become. They are the bridge between the dreamer and the builder, between the man you talk about and the man you live as. Do them quietly. Do them daily. Don't try to be perfect, just be faithful. Faithful to the rhythm. Faithful to your word. Faithful to the future version of yourself that's been waiting on you to wake up like you mean it. And if you're wondering when you'll feel like him, you won't until you act like him long enough that it becomes natural. Discipline doesn't make you a different persona, it makes you the real one. Now let's cast the vision forward. If you follow this rhythm, where will you be in 5 years? Let's find out. Let's go forward. Not just into tomorrow morning, but 5 years from now. I want you to picture the man who didn't drift, the man who didn't snooze, didn't delay, didn't talk about change, he practiced it. 5 years of discipline, 5 years of waking up on time, 5 years of silence before chaos, motion before messages, clarity before tasks, 5 years of living by philosophy, not pressure. What would that man look like? Let me tell you, his voice is steady. His eyes are clear. He doesn't panic. He doesn't chase. He doesn't guess. He walks into rooms with quiet power because he's been showing up when nobody was watching. He's earned a presence that cannot be faked, and everyone around him feels it. He doesn't just have results. He has proof. Proof that he lived on purpose. Proof that he became the man he admired. Proof that he didn't die with dreams still buried inside him. Now picture the other man. The one who said, I'll start next week. The one who stayed comfortable. Who kept compromising. Who looked successful on the outside, but went to bed each night knowing I never kept my word to myself. That man doesn't need to be judged. He's already living in quiet judgment. Because no external failure hurts more than internal regret. You will not get both lives. You get one. One 5-year story. One arc of compound discipline here. One long, slow erosion of your spirit. And the difference between those 2 men, it started with one morning. Just one. The first one, you finally treated as sacred. The one where you said, this time, I mean it. You're not 5 years away from clarity. You're one decision away from alignment. And alignment repeated becomes legacy. So ask yourself, when I walk into a room 5 years from now, will I recognize the man walking in? Or will I have to apologize to him for the choices I never made? Let's make it real. Let's not just hope. Let's declare. Let's move from passive listener to active builder. You don't need permission to start. You need a ritual that anchors your identity. And we're going to seal that right now. Let's speak the final line. Let's lock it in. One phrase. One decree, the kind of sentence that carries your future inside it. We finish with this. Let's not leave this as inspiration. Let's make it a line in the sand. Let's make it a declaration of identity, because words spoken in the quiet can change your future just as powerfully as actions done in public. And the man who builds a future begins with the words he says to himself and believes. Here's the line I want you to write below this video. Not to impress anyone, not for likes or attention, but to speak truth into the man you're building. I wake up like the man I refuse to bury. Write it, say it, and more importantly, live it. Because every morning you have a choice. You can either rise in alignment or hit snooze on your future. You can either step into your rhythm or keep rehearsing the drift that's been stealing your years. 7 days. That's where it starts. Just 7 mornings. Not for perfection, but for practice. Wake up without negotiation. Move. Reflect. Write. Protect the first hour like your entire identity depends on it, because it does. And as the days stack, you'll start to see something change. Not the world around you, but the weight you carry inside. That quiet disappointment will start to lift. The guilt will begin to dissolve. And in its place, you'll feel certainty. Not because everything is easy, but because you showed up on time, with intention, like a man who's done drifting. So say it now. Write it below. I wake up like the man I refuse to bury. Then go prove it. Tomorrow. And the next day. And the next. Because the millionaire version of you isn't found in the future. He's waiting at 6:00 a.m. in the mirror, in motion, in rhythm. And if you don't meet him, the dreamer dies. But if you do, if you choose discipline, alignment, and integrity, you'll wake up to a life that's built, not begged for. Let's begin.